Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, February 22nd. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The beginning of the Russia invasion. Those were the words used by President Biden today as his administration, with the aid of allies, began implementing an array of sanctions in response to Russian President Vladimir Putin's continued aggression surrounding Ukraine. The crisis becoming all too real here at home, but we'll have more on that in a moment. First, reporter Isabel Rosales on the situation playing out overseas.
Alarm and outrage from world leaders.
This is the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine.
President Joe Biden following through on promises of more severe sanctions. 2 large Russian financial institutions sanctioned. Russia's government cut off from Western financing. The U.S. will also sanction Russian elites and send more troops to Baltic states to reinforce NATO.
If Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions.
Russian military vehicles spotted along the border with eastern Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin formally recognized 2 Russian-backed regions in Ukraine as independent states Monday, ordering his troops there in an alleged peacekeeping mission. The U.S. is refuting those claims.
He's setting up a rationale to go much further. This is a flagrant violation of international law and demands a firm response from the international community.
Swift condemnation from NATO allies.
Moscow has now moved from covert attempts to destabilize Ukraine to overt military action.
The United Kingdom freezing the assets of 5 Russian banks and 3 oligarchs. Russia's biggest gas customer, Germany, suspending progression of a key gas pipeline. Ukraine's president says he believes there will be no war with Russia, but cautioned his troops will be prepared. Diplomatic efforts continue, but prospects grow dimmer by the hour. In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
And meanwhile, here in San Diego, it's an anxious time for thousands of Ukrainian transplants watching the situation in Ukraine. KPBS reporter John Carroll talked to 2 of them.
Stressful,
frustrating,
nerve-wracking.
Nadia Haywaz and her husband Askold are glued to the TV and to their phones, watching the frightening situation unfolding in Ukraine, talking to family and friends there, bracing for the worst.
They're putting up a brave face to a great degree. Yeah, we're okay, we're fine.
We're cautious, we're not going anywhere.
Most of the Ukrainian expats living in the San Diego area are connected through Ukrainian-based Christian churches. These pictures are from the Haywaz's church, St. John the Baptizer. The aggression of Russia is nothing new to them. The most recent history of the conflict begins in 2014 when Russian separatists took over the Donetsk and Luhansk regions in eastern Ukraine.
And since that time, since 2014, over 14,000 have been killed. 1.5 million have been internally displaced.
Nadia Haywaz says the world was asleep at the switch when that happened. Not anymore. She says President Biden gave a good speech today, highlighting the unity of NATO and the European Union, a source of some comfort for Ukrainians here.
I would like to thank President Biden for his speech today.
He said the right things. He said it strongly, firmly. He did not hesitate.
But whatever help Ukraine gets from the outside, the Haywazes say Ukrainians will not stand for Russian aggression. They will resist.
Ukraine has been building up their military. Ukraine is set on protecting its freedom.
Askold and Nadia Haywaz say Ukrainians will behave like some other people did more than 200 years ago, American revolutionaries who fought for freedom from Britain. The fight of today is to preserve the freedom Ukraine has had since separating from the then Soviet Union in 1991, a fight whose outcome is anything but certain. John Carroll, KPBS News.
The latest winter storm arrived in San Diego County, bringing much-needed rain to our region. We've seen scattered showers throughout the day, like you see in this video from Santee. Our mountains also got a dusting of snow, leading to closures for Julian and Spencer Valley school districts. Mountain Empire Unified School District schools were also closed, but due to high winds. We'll have your full forecast coming up in a few minutes. This evening, the San Diego Unified Board of Education is taking up the issue of mandating vaccinations for teenage students. It comes just a few months before a statewide requirement goes into effect. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman has more on what could be on the horizon.
The mandate would go into effect starting in the upcoming summer session and apply to students ages 16 and older. Those who play sports or extracurriculars would need to be vaccinated before practices begin in the fall term.
We've already implemented a mandate for our staff. So in order to work for our district, staff have to be fully vaccinated now. And so moving forward with vaccine mandates for all of our students is also the right thing to do.
San Diego Unified Board member Richard Barrera supports the vaccine mandate. He says the district has been consulting with experts from UC San Diego Health on this proposal.
Their advice is that the most important strategy to prevent the virus from spreading on campus is to get as many people as possible vaccinated.
Right now, about 80% of San Diego Unified students ages 16 and older are fully vaccinated. The proposed mandate would just apply to them.
There are a number of vaccines we require in school, and basically you have to check 3 boxes. Does the disease spread in schools? Is the disease serious? And do we have a vaccine that works well to prevent it?
Dr. Mark Sawyer with the local chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics says the COVID vaccine checks those boxes. He adds that the vaccines are safe and side effects for children are comparable to those in adults.
The side effects from the vaccine are much less than either the cardiac effects of COVID infection itself or other complications from COVID, and including death.
There have been 2 legal challenges to the mandate. There's one in state court relating to exemptions and another in federal court that the Supreme Court recently declined but could reconsider. That one is linked to the refusal to allow religious exemptions. Attorneys representing a 16-year-old Scripps Ranch student said their team is ready to seek further relief at the Supreme Court when the district reinstates this mandate. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A new study shows that City Heights residents and the many immigrant families who live there are facing some of the most severe rental burdens in the county. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer has a look.
Originally from Mexico City, Angelica Reyes Martinez grew up around San Diego and knows the city as her home. She's been renting in the east part of North Park, a community that borders City Heights, for over 12 years. For her, the rental situation is concerning, and she feels stuck with the landlord she has due to increased rates across the county.
I wouldn't mind to pay that much if, my window wasn't broken, or if the termites weren't there, or if the drain wasn't clogged, things like that.
A study published by Leading Voices on Urban Inequality found that diverse immigrant communities are severely struggling to keep up with rising rents. City Heights was used as a focus group for the study, which was conducted back in 2018. USC Price Center director and the article's co-author Gary Painter says their findings can be applied to solving rental affordability issues in low-income communities in densely populated metropolitan areas with immigrant populations across the U.S.
People's rents that they're being forced to pay have gone up faster than their incomes. And that leads to a phenomenon that we in the academic world call rent burden, which is characterized as the percentage of one's income that go toward rent, which means that you have less and less money left over to pay for other necessities.
Reyes Martinez says many folks are having to find unconventional ways just to get by on a month-to-month basis, including having multiple families live in a single unit.
There's sometimes up to 5 families in one place. The rooms sometimes are doubled. Like you rent, but you know that someone else is renting there. So I don't know how that would work. I don't know if I can do that ever.
Painter says the rental situation is dire, especially for immigrant families. He and the other authors suggest the situation can be improved by building more affordable housing and enforcing greater tenant and rental protections. They also say higher wages and expanded housing vouchers can help, along with assistance for down payments and security deposits. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Record high gas prices have many commuters feeling grateful to be working from home. But as KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne shows us, some organizations have no choice but to hit the road every day, and that's proving costly.
Prices at the pump are breaking records in San Diego County. The average price now at $4.74 a gallon. And everyone is feeling the pinch when they pump, including nonprofits whose work requires them to get behind the wheel.
Because of the fact that we and our volunteers are every day going over the entire county to deliver meals to anywhere from 1,900 to 2,100 seniors, gas costs mean a lot to our business.
Brent Wakefield with Meals on Wheels San Diego says many seniors rely on the food deliveries and wellness checks from the organization's volunteers. Volunteers that dedicate their time and wallets because they are responsible for their own gas.
That's 706,000 miles that our volunteers have driven in the last year to deliver those meals. And our volunteers do all this out of the goodness of their hearts. So not only are they giving their time and they're doting over the senior and they're spending time with them and having a conversation, but they're actually paying for their own gas bill. And so for them, this has been a big impact.
Wakefield says without Meals on Wheels volunteers, the organization would need an additional $3.5 million annually to ensure meal deliveries. He fears that the rising gas prices will drive away volunteers, many who are seniors themselves.
But, 70% of them, in fact, are on a fixed income, meaning they're retired. And gas prices, when they go up, it means that this is a burden to them.
Wakefield says some relief comes when donations in the form of gas cards come in that they are able to give to their volunteers. Mama's Kitchen is another nonprofit organization delivering medically tailored meals to people experiencing an illness. Alberto Cortez, the organization's CEO, says they are already seeing an impact on their volunteers due to gas prices.
We are certainly seeing a diminished consistency in delivery drivers where people are committed to the mission, but folks that might have been doing a delivery once a week or twice a week may now be doing it once every other week.
Cortez says he has also seen an increase in food prices that he attributes to higher gas prices.
The food cost increases that we're seeing are not just because of food chain challenges. There is a direct impact that fuel prices have on the cost of food.
Mama's Kitchen is brainstorming different ways to retain drivers to uphold their mission. Condensed routes and mileage reimbursements are some ideas the organization is reviewing.
Whatever is happening out there, we are absolutely committed to making sure that the people that are depending on us for food receive their food.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Guilty verdicts handed down today against 3 white people who killed Ahmaud Arbery after chasing him down a neighborhood street because he was black. Reporter Chris Nguyen has more on the federal hate crimes and murder convictions.
Justice for Ahmaud Arbery! Justice for Ahmaud Arbery!
On the eve of the 2nd anniversary of Ahmaud Arbery's death, the 3 white men who killed him were found guilty on all counts in a federal hate crimes trial.
I, as a mom, will never heal.
Tuesday, Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Roddy Bryan were convicted of interference of rights, a federal hate crime, and attempted kidnapping. The McMichaels were also found guilty of an additional firearms charge for using and carrying a firearm during a crime of violence.
They gave us a sense of a small victory, but we as a family will never get victory because Ahmaud is gone forever.
The jury found that the men attempted to chase Arbery and attempted to unlawfully confine him using their trucks as he jogged through their neighborhood outside Brunswick Brunswick, Georgia in February 2020. Arbery's mother relieved with the verdicts after the judge rejected an earlier plea deal agreed to by prosecutors.
They didn't have a son that was lying in a cold grave. Come on, all right, come on. And they still didn't hear my cry.
All three men could now receive sentences of up to life in prison and heavy fines for the federal convictions. They're currently serving life sentences after being previously convicted of murdering Arbery in a separate state trial, although they have said they plan to appeal.
No one should fear that if they go out for a run, they will be targeted and killed because of the color of their skin.
Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
Military hearings are underway in the tragic drowning of 8 Marines and a sailor. They died off the coast of California in a training exercise gone wrong in 2020. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh spoke to parents who are still looking for answers and for justice.
He was very loving boy. Loved his dad, his sisters, me.
It's been over 18 months since Lupita Garcia's son was killed in a training accident. 21-year-old Lance Corporal Marco Barranco drowned along with 8 other troops when his vehicle sank off the coast of Southern California in July 2020.
I do feel guilty a bit because I didn't look more into it. Maybe if I would have known that there was all these flaws, maybe all these accidents, I would have talked to my son about it.
Garcia wanted to meet at a park in Montebello, just east of LA, where her son's name was added to a local veterans memorial. Garcia is among a group of parents who have sat in the audience during a series of hearings at Camp Pendleton, hearings to determine whether some of the leaders involved that day will be kicked out of the Corps.
I believe in God. I have faith, and sometimes I just say this is what God wanted. Regardless, my son was gonna go. But I don't accept that it was in training. That's what really, really gets me so angry. Why in training?
July 30, 2020, 8 Marines and 1 sailor drowned while returning to the USS Somerset from San Clemente Island in an amphibious assault vehicle. Their unit was so far behind schedule that their ship had moved away to another exercise. Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Michael Regner testified that in the confusion, he didn't understand which AAV was sinking. 45 minutes later, the assault vehicle with Garcia's son went under, with several troops still fighting to get out.
I don't feel like we're getting justice. They gave me thousands and thousands of pages that told me that they killed my child. We are responsible for this. But all I hear in these boards, they're going in circles, pointing fingers at each other.
Alita Bath is the mother of 19-year-old PFC Evan Bath of Wisconsin. She has been at nearly all of the hearings. At least 3 officers in charge that day have been allowed to stay in the Corps. Each officer said they told their commanders about problems. None of them stopped the exercise.
They're supposed to be Marines, but no one's taking responsibility, and no one is being held to be responsible. So me sitting in that chair, if nothing else, they have to look at me.
The Marines produced multiple reports pointing to serious lapses in training and equipment breakdowns. And this isn't the only accident. 60 Marines have died in training in the last 5 years. Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts is on the House Armed Services Committee. Moulton is also a former Marine officer. He rode an AAV in combat. He says he and his platoon didn't feel safe riding inside the vehicle while it crossed a river leading into Baghdad 20 years ago.
This gets back to the culture. If I had that concern as a young second lieutenant 20 years ago, then why has the Marine Corps not satisfactorily addressed that since then?
It took another 18 months after the accident for the Marines to finally pull the aging AAVs from sea duty. Moulton says the harder question is whether the Marines can create a culture where officers feel empowered to halt an exercise when they see a problem. Nancy and Peter Vienna's son, Navy Hospital Corpsman Christopher Bobby Nem, drowned that day. Their son was one of the troops who was allowed in the exercise, even though he hadn't passed his required swim test. Survivors told them what they saw.
The boys are in the dark. A couple of them had snuck their cell phones, which they weren't supposed to, but brought their cell phones. They're using their cell phones for light to try to see. And it wouldn't have mattered anyway because they never got egress training.
Technically, they aren't even Gold Star families. Congress reserves that title for families of those killed in combat, not training.
I'd rather have my son die in combat because I would have been prepared for this.
Yeah.
I would accept it so much more because I know this was his job and he's going to battle. Or that's why they would ask me, why it's been almost 2 years, why are you still mourning? I'm like, because I can't accept this. I don't get to have an open casket. I don't get justice.
You never saw him again.
I didn't get to tell him I love you. I didn't get to tell him be careful.
Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, will U.S. sanctions be enough to deter Russia from a full-scale invasion of Ukraine? That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
AT&T's 3G network is shutting down today. Other carriers are following suit later this year, and it won't just impact older phones. Some home alarm systems, medical devices, in-car crash notification, and roadside assistance systems may also require updates to continue to work. To avoid a disruption of service, businesses are urging customers to upgrade or replace some products and services before they drop connectivity. In Northern California, snow returned to the Sierra after a record-long dry period. As Laura Hafel shows us, the winter weather brought another welcome sight for locals. That's tourists.
A record-setting low snow season, startling to Truckee locals.
Things have changed.
For 30 years, Jeff Hain has spent his winters in the Sierra.
It used to be a lot wetter. I remember the El Nino year, right, in '97. Things are a lot different.
And a lot more dry.
I remember this time last year, I was coming up a lot more often with my friends just because they were getting more snow.
But how much has winter changed? We're getting answers. CBS 13 reached out to the National Weather Service, who's calling this winter unreliable. A record wet October was followed by record dry months. According to the Central Sierra Snow Lab, a 2-decade-old record was broken this year. In 1990, the Sierra went 31 days without precipitation. In 2022, the Sierra was snowless for 37 days. The snowfall that ended the dry streak happened February 15th and was only roughly 1.5 inches.
Because it's just not happening anymore.
A concern for tourists and the businesses that rely on them.
We got the COVID or the pandemic for 2 years, and it's already been a whammy. And then with the winter weather, right, it's even worse. You got to wonder how they survive, right? Because it's really very tourist-driven, this area.
Snow equals money.
Tourist Club bartender Ryan Callahan grateful for the snow and seasonal visitors.
Most people like the snow.
Hoping the future forecast calls for more of this.
But, you know, there's always March.
Well, our storm is here, and it is pressing southward, bringing likely everything from gusty winds to snow in the mountains and even the possibility of some small hail. So here's the big picture story. We have this really cold air mass that is diving southward here, and so it's not going to take a lot to maybe get some localized thunderstorms and some small hail out of that. You'll see reduced visibility at times, especially through the passes and through the mountains, along with gusty winds. And speaking of those gusty winds, we have wind advisories here across the lower terrain, high wind warnings in the higher terrain. Those remain in effect through midnight tonight. Then we have winter storm warnings posted here. Those remaining in effect until 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Again, this is mainly in the mountains. We also have beyond this some very, very cold air that's going to be moving on in, and freeze watches that have been posted here in some of the valleys that go into effect tomorrow night. So 10 p.m. Wednesday through 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. For tonight, you'll already start to get a taste of that cooler air as temperatures get down into the low 40s, Oceanside, Escondido, upper 30s for you out towards Vermona. And we'll time it out during the overnight period. Again, you'll see that precip really increasing. Look at all the snow here that continues in the mountains through the late overnight period. And then through the day on Wednesday, some lingering showers still possible here and some snow in the mountains. But again, the heaviest of it will be during the overnight period tonight. Tomorrow's a chilly day with temps in the upper 50s in Oceanside, right around 60 in San Diego, upper 50s in Borrego Springs. But then we warm up later in the week, and as we head into the weekend, we'll see a return to the 70s near the coast by the time we get towards Sunday. Further inland, temperatures go from the low 50s on Wednesday into the 60s Thursday, Friday, 70s on the board for Saturday and Sunday. But look at those overnight lows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, getting down into the low 30s. So some really cold overnights. In the mountains, temperatures go from the 20s on Wednesday up into the 30s Thursday, 40s Friday, 60s by the end of the weekend. And in the deserts, a similar trend here. Temperatures go from the 50s to the 60s into the 70s by the end of the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
It is a date to remember for couples tying the knot today. It's 2/22/22 on a Tuesday. The county administration building performed back-to-back wedding ceremonies on this special palindrome day. Our media partner 10 News spoke to Angelica and Juan Rivera, who were second in line. They've been together for almost 10 years and then just decided last night to get married.
Like, it would be perfect that we could get married tomorrow. It would be like a nice date. I just looked online and I just was looking at different options, different like locations that didn't have anything. And then I found one, just one, the last one at 8:30. There's no coincidences in this life.
Well, congratulations to them. The San Diego County Clerk said their office opened up extra spots on Monday night to accommodate more couples looking to tie the knot today. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. I hope you have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.